I'm so glad everyone's here, and I'm glad that you're here, Linda, modeling, taking care of yourself, and being here exactly as you can be. It helps all of us know that we can arrive in these bodies as they are. I I uh, I did a wonderful workshop on spiritual writing with Zenju Earthling Manuel this past weekend. I'm so moved by her language and who she is as a person of Zen, as a person of color, as someone who deeply cares about the world. So this week and next week, I want to bring forward her teaching. She has a new book coming out. It doesn't come out till February 8th, so I don't know if how much we'll get to turn towards that. We'll see. For today, I'm back with and continuing with her book, The Way of Tenderness: Awakening Through Race, Sexuality, and Gender. I am so ongoing moved and inspired by her language of the way of tenderness, that's what our practice is. Certainly not what I thought when I began, and I think many people also would not necessarily think that Zen living was the way of tenderness, but been doing it long enough now. Seems to be an embodied truth that the heart gets more and more tender, and the heart mind, gets more and more expansive and inclusive. What a beautiful way to live. Zenju, this past weekend, her language, which I'm going to pick up because it feels similar to ours, is boundlessness and embodiment. That's where we're living. That's the place of truth. This moment is living in the tension of boundlessness and embodiment. Go too far towards embodiment, can just get lost in your own story and your own suffering. Go too much towards boundlessness. Well, John Wellwood called it a spiritual bypass. It's like everything's fine. My heart hurts, my body hurts. There's suffering in the world and everything's fine. And it's true, everything is fine, but don't miss the other part. So, how do we live it and breathe it? That's the Bodhisattva path. So, I wanted to bring forward some of her teachings. Wanted to start with, well, she talks about the Sandokai. And Chelsea this last month brought forward the Sandokai, and we'll turn towards it in a more thorough way at some point. We've done that before, and I love the Sandokai. And Erica brought forward, I think last Thursday, the Heart Sutra and Thich Nhat Hanh's new translation, and I think this all weaves together beautifully. So one of Zenju's chapters is called Multiplicity in Oneness. Sandokai is the harmony of difference and equality. It's very much the same heart. She says, inclusiveness underlies oneness. Being aware of the multiplicity of oneness requires that we recognize the collective nature of our lives. It is crucial that we see the variety of lived experience within oneness in order to see who we are as living beings. We have mistaken our sameness for being human. Our sameness stems from the fact that we share the same life source as a flower and a bee. But we are nonetheless inherently different in form. When I first started practicing Zen, we used to try, well, as I understood the teachings that were passed to me at Zen Center in those early days, if we tried to bring up any difference, it was really, we were kind of told that that wasn't the path. I think it may sometimes be more complex now, but we are being asked on every level of our lives to honor and acknowledge a difference. We each have a different embodiment. And with that comes a different experience, which is rich and beautiful and a multifaceted jewel. So how do we listen? How do we live that is all-inclusive? We are inherently different in form. When we speak of race, sexuality, and gender, when we speak of our embodiment, we speak of all of us, not just those people over there. I would like to include when we speak politically. Let's be really careful who we think those people are over there. The body, distinct in its appearance and character, is the location of awakened experience. It's what we have been given to wake up in. Inclusivity lies at the heart of understanding multiplicity and oneness as a way of tenderness, as a way of facing the challenges of the body as the location of awakened experience. Not always so easy to be in a body. Buddha, sickness, aging, death, race, gender, sexuality, nationality, ethnicity. So how do we live this together? We must acknowledge the relevancy of our lived experience exactly as it is, even within the absoluteness of our being, embodiment and boundlessness. There is a relational self on the path of spirit. We are not capable of being unembodied selves. We are not capable of being unembodied selves, nor were we meant to be. We cannot become the self that we cannot touch, that does not suffer, that has no name, no color, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue. No matter how many labels we drop, we cannot become that self. I think maybe right now I'll just add in, bring forward again, because this is the story that Thich Nhat Hanh, that Erica brought forward, that Thich Nhat Hanh said why he felt like he needed to clarify the Heart Sutra. Zen master asked the novice monk, "Tell me about your understanding of the Heart Sutra." And the novice monk joined his palms and replied, "I understand that the 5 skandhas are empty. There are no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, mind, no forms, no sound, no smells, no taste, no touch, no object of minds." He said the Heart Sutra as it had been taught and as we have recited. And the Zen master says, "Do you believe what it says?" "Yes, I truly believe what it says." And the Zen master says, "Come closer." And when the novice monk drew near, the Zen master immediately used his thumb and index finger to pinch and twist the novice's nose. You might right now, gently please, not too hard, just notice you have a nose. We all have bodies, and smells and sounds and tastes and touch and ears and eyes. So Thich Nhat Hanh says, the body itself is emptiness, and emptiness itself is this body. This body is no other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than this very body. Zazen. We sit down in a body on the earth, on this earth body, along with all the other bodies. What an amazing thing. No wonder why we want to make it simple. It can feel pretty complicated being here. I think I just want to go off by myself and get rid of all those other bodies. Then I might start feeling more clear and enlightened. I don't know if that's ever occurred to any of you. When we try to manipulate the nature of our oneness into a flat, one-dimensional sameness, we choose to ignore the concurrent multiplicity of nature. The sameness of being one does not erase difference. We need not make a union of sameness and difference, for they are already perfect. Two aspects of the single dynamic relationship that is the nature of life. Two aspects of the single dynamic relationship that is the nature of life. When we look out onto a garden and see curly willow trees, roses, succulents, collard greens, and plum blossoms, we are witnessing oneness. We don't have the power to create it. Experiencing oneness requires that we drop any idea of it. Over and over. What is it? Great wonder. Who am I? Who are you? What is this life? And how do we live it? So now we're going to talk about the Sandokai. It's so wonderful how all of these things just weave together, and the longer you practice, it's different songs all singing the same song that's the same as the bird song and the hum of the bee and the sounds of the streets and the drumbeat of the daily news. In his Sandokai, this is Zenju again, Zen Master Seikido Kisen poetically speaks of how the oneness and the multiplicity of things coexist. He eloquently writes, "Trunk and branches share the essence, revered and common, each has its speech." The one trunk shares the essence of being a tree, yet the tree has its oneness and relationship with multiple roots, and the branches are multiple while having a relationship with one trunk. Each has its own speech, points to its multiplicity in the oneness. When we have an idea of harmony without an understanding that difference exists within oneness, we end up creating separation between people. Alternately, multiplicity may be mistaken for perceiving the individual things one at a time, for perceiving each thing as separate, or for being excluded from oneness. When we see things strictly through the lens of separation, we may think we can hate someone without hating ourselves. I would also add that we may think that we can hate ourselves or some part of ourselves. It doesn't mean that that's not going to be projected onto hating somebody else. We need to keep looking at this deeply. From the point of view of oneness, it is impossible to truly love while hating anyone else. Doesn't mean anger doesn't arise. Doesn't mean that we don't see pain and suffering. We just keep looking at our own heart. We come home and tweak our own nose, take a breath, say, I don't know how to do this, but I do know this truth of boundlessness and embodiment. I'll just take a breath, see what happens next. Race, sexuality, and gender are collective manifestations. We see them as individual points of view on life, acknowledging that we are in fact interrelated, even within constructed or delusional categories of our unique embodiment, is a significant part of shifting the old dialogue. Back to the Heart Sutra. Oh, not yet. I mark these different passages and then I get attached to all of them. It is important to study the self in order to discover harmony in our own lives. We must listen to the earth right under our feet no matter what. We must listen to the earth right under our feet no matter what. Feel your feet. Listen. Together. We must constantly be attuned to the unfolding of life as it presents the multitude of variations in which harmony manifests in nature as oneness. If we carry awareness of the body, the earth is our body is the earth, we are matter. We are matter. The Buddha, when he sat down under the Bodhi tree, did the earth-touching gesture. This earth is my witness, waking up with and for all beings. Just keep touching the earth. Roll around on the earth. Lay down on the earth. Do somersault. No, probably you don't want to do somersaults. If you want to do a somersault, do a somersault. Keep listening to the earth as our body, all of it. If we carry awareness of the body as our inheritance of nature, as tender as a maple leaf or a small hummingbird, then the experience of complete tenderness can rise and swell within our ever-evolving relative reality. We will evolve beyond running from or tracking down monsters. We will evolve beyond running from or tracking down monsters to communicating on all levels of awareness, even that which goes beyond the body. We must begin with the body and acceptance of it as nature. So now, back to the Heart Sutra as we begin to move towards closing this little talk. The Heart Sutra, one of the key texts chanted in Zen temples throughout the world, speaks to a shifting of our awareness from focusing on the concrete reality of form to an open-hearted reception of life endowed with form. Moves from a concrete reality of form. It's like this. These things, these bodies as things that we're dragging around, trying to get to cooperate. The world out there as things. To an open-hearted reception of life endowed with form. To me, that's the beauty of Zazen body. We sit down right in the middle of it. We sit this matter body down in this beautiful ancient form that can be laying down, that can be walking. It's a way of being present in the body, completely willing to feel what is, quote, the inner life, in receptivity with, quote, the outer life, and it becomes a swinging gate. Can't grab hold of it, can't pin it down, but more and more dropping body and mind, our body becomes the whole earth and just exactly this body. If we are aware of emptiness and form, we can open-heartedly receive wisdom from the natural bodies we have inherited. The same awareness of form or of the body allows us to open-heartedly receive great compassion, which is the nature of everything. Everything is relationship and interrelationship. We just have to keep dropping our idea that compassion looks this way, or that isn't compassion, and breathe in and out, right at the tension point of embodiment and boundlessness. What is this compassion? Compassion and wisdom that does not distinguish between superior and inferior resides within this very body. The Heart Sutra opens us to the pure enjoyment of receiving such wisdom and compassion into our open hearts. Pure enjoyment. By studying the self, seeing who you are, not only who you are in relationship to the external world or to your emotional world, but who you are as nature, you cross the waters to the other shore, to the place of tenderness. That make you happy? Makes me happy. Makes me want to sit down and stand up and bowing. Marianne said a life of vowing is a life of bowing. Just gratitude. So here's my question. Send you into small groups. You can, of course, talk about anything that came